Hey guys, welcome to the Daily Word Bible Study, a plain and simple book by book, chapter by chapter, and verse by verse study through the entire Bible. We are in a new book, the book of Job. And the book of Job is one of the most controversial books only because, well, you'll see why. In this book, we're going to see that God is going to give permission to Satan to destroy a good man. So that's the first thing that has people going, what? Huh? The second issue is, excuse me, how does Satan have access to God? Again, that just I like to refer to Job as dismantling everyone's presuppositional theology, presuppositional view. In other words, there are a lot of theology out here, and Job comes along and just kind of like, well, if your theology is right, then why is this right? For example, like even a good example, people say, God cannot look upon sin. We're going to see Satan has access. Okay. So what's going on there? The question is, we don't know, but what's going on there, right? And as I said in the introduction, Job, the first two chapters sets up what's going on. Chapters 3 through 37 mostly consist of the human side of it. In other words, men arguing with men side of it, which is kind of interesting in itself. And so it's an interesting take. It's one of the most fascinating books, as we will see, even though it is long. Now, it is long because of the style of language. As a writer, I'm kind of taught what's called being concise. So if I was like writing the book of Job, learning to speak in a concise way, you probably can chop Job down to a fourth of its length. Because in terms of the culture, that's how they would talk. They would say, well, your life is like a flower, a sunflower that's been out, in the sun all day, but hasn't partake of rain that did not come for the last, 90 days because, and it just goes on and on and on and on. Very descriptive, however. And sometimes we're not used to that, but be it as it may, we're going to see. Let's get into it. Job chapter 1. The book of Job, chapter 1. All right. First one says, there was a man in the country of Uz named Job. He was a man of perfect integrity who feared God and turned away from evil. Now, I kind of said this before, that right off the bat we see that Job, he did notice he was a man of perfect integrity, and I said this is most interesting in that during this time there was a lot of sin around. There was a lot of sin. There was a lot of paganism. We could go on and on and on. And so this is for him to have this type of character in the world in which he lives in. Okay, and notice it says he was a man of perfect integrity who feared God and turned away from evil. He had 7 sons and 3 daughters. His estate included 7,000 sheep, 3,000 camels, 500 yokes of oxen, 500 female donkeys, and a very large number of servants. Job was the greatest man among all the people of the East. Now, so at this time, the East is kind of always referred to that he is. You can say he was a prophet, but I think more so what is being emphasized here is that he feared God. Now, on top of that, he was a rich man. He was rich. And even by today's standard, this livestock you would be, pretty rich by this standard. Okay. Um, so he had 7 sons, three daughters. I mean, 7 sons, 3 daughters. So again, this kind of sets it up here that, okay, first of all, this man had it all. This man basically, he had all of what you could think of. He had the life. Okay, Job had, in a sense, a perfect life. He was rich, servants. He had the admiration of a lot of people, right? So now, also, this mention of the East here. He was one of the greatest men of the East. Even back then, now, because we oftentimes think about wisdom and knowledge. Well, a lot of this even predates centuries before even the Greek. So during this time, the men of the East, by the way, were known. It's kind of interesting. Remember the wise men of the East that came to Jesus. Verse 4 says, his sons used to take turns having banquets at their homes. They would send an invitation to their 3 sisters to eat and drink with them. And whenever a round of the banqueting was over, Job would send for his children to purify them, rising early in the morning to offer burnt offerings for all of them. For Job thought, perhaps my children have sinned, having cursed God in their hearts. Thus, this was Job's regular practice. Now, again, it's kind of interesting the idea that Job during this time. Now, remember this predates the Mosaic law, so the offering of burnt offerings. And I don't know why I don't know why God requires the offering of burnt offerings here, other than the symbolism. Because and I'm kind of thankful being in the New Testament, Jesus is the all of these burnt offerings, all these kind of offerings that you would offer to God are symbols. Jesus is the real. Okay. But it's interesting that that this was around during his time, which predates the Mosaic law by at least 500 years. Okay, by at least 500 years. And notice Job's thought here is that my children could have sinned by cursing God in their hearts. So let's offer an offering here. So right away, we also see the presence of sin. We see the idea of sin that was very much so on their minds. All right, so that's Job, right? That's Job. He is a righteous man, a good man, a rich man, a man of character, a man of integrity. So that's the setup. It says, one day the sons of God came to present themselves before God, and Satan also came with him. Now, before we go to the next one, this term, the sons of God, which is used here, in the Old Testament, mostly refers to angels. sons of God, angels. And not sons of God in the sense by birth, but sons of God is and there are a lot of good reasons why probably this phrase was used. Sons of God had a more pagan connotation to it. The gods, or you can say the sons of God, but here mostly it for sure identifies them as angels. Now, if you will look back in the Genesis chapter 6, this phrase is used, which has pretty much had it had a great controversy over in Genesis 6 that the sons of God came and presented themselves and then had sex with women, took wives, had sex with women, and produced this hybrid offspring. The phrase sons of God probably doesn't refer to angels. However, in pretty much most of the cases where you see the sons of God in the Old Testament, angels is used. And that is why people believe so strongly in that kind of thought that in Genesis 6, that there was this time when the fallen angels came down and slept with women, produced offspring. And there's a whole theology on that, which I won't get into. But as you can see right here, without a doubt, the sons of God refers to angels. Now, the second thing becomes is that the sons of God, who are they? The angels. And then it comes down and says right here. Now, let me say this: that the term sons of God can also have the connotation of kind of greater beings than men. Okay. Now, all right. So it says, one day the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord. Now, at this point, the term sons of God, as I said, refers to angels. But here's the question. Does the term sons of God refer to angels? You know what? Let me do this. I'm going to go off script here. I'm going to go back to Genesis. By the way, the time of the flood, okay, Job could have been around this time. As I said, Job predates Moses, and you can almost say certainly at best around the time of Abraham, but he could have certainly predated Abraham. All right. This is the term what I was referring to here. Now here it is in Genesis chapter 1 verse 6 says, when mankind began to multiply on the earth, and daughters were born to them, the sons of God saw that the daughters of mankind were beautiful, and they took any they chose as wives for themselves. And this is the where this comes from. Look at verse 3. And the Lord said, my spirit will not remain with mankind forever, because they are corrupt. Their days will be 120 years. And then it said, verse 4 goes back, the Nephilim were on the earth both in those days and afterwards, when the sons of God came to the daughters of mankind, who were born to them, and they were the powerful men of old, famous men. Now, again, when you think about this term sons of God here, and he uses it twice, he doesn't give any kind of clarification. For example, what I mean by clarification, he doesn't say fallen angels. We know at this time, Satan fell. And again, there's a lot of theologies. One of the problems with passages like this is that their lack of specificity is a problem. So we shouldn't go beyond we shouldn't go beyond what the scriptures reveal. In other words, we shouldn't input. One of the good questions here is this notion, however, that the sons of God took daughters. So the question is, who are the sons of God? Now, in Job, which we get back to in a moment, without a doubt, they are referring to angels. That's without a doubt. Here, it's not clear. However, if you look and say, well, what is kind of the format of it? In other words, it says, when mankind began to multiply on the earth, and daughters were born unto them, the sons of God. So it's the term sons of God a euphemism? And it's vague because if you're referring to angels, as most definitely they are referring to angels, then are they referring to angels here, the sons of God? And then, of course, if they are referring to angels, are they referring to specifically the fallen angels that rebelled against God with Lucifer or Satan? All right, so, and I have some problems with the notion if you're saying that these angels came and they cohabited with women. Let me tell you why I have problems with this. I did not mean to go this, but this is going to be kind of an extra bonus lesson here. Okay, this is an extra bonus lesson because I didn't mean to go this far, but I'll play it out. The term here when he says sons of God, so this idea of sons of God who took the daughters, right, of mankind and they were beautiful, and they took. I'm sorry, let me go back and read this. When mankind began to multiply on the earth and daughters were born to them, the sons of God saw that the daughters of mankind were beautiful, and they took any that they chose as wives for themselves. So the problem is that if these are referring to angels, of course, then what group or set of angels are they referring to? This passage is not clear. So again, are they talking about angels that are up there with God in a sense at the time, the present? Or are they referring to the fallen angels that fell? The scripture does not bring this out. Now, the reason why I do not believe that it's referring to angelic beings, Jesus made a statement about angels, said that they do not marry nor are given in marriage. And there's an inference there that I take that, first of all, they're not compatible. So that's the first thing. That becomes the question. Are you saying then that there are created beings before the foundation of the world that they were created with compatible genitals, compatible DNA? In order to make that work, in order to make this notion that these angels cohabited with women, in order to make that work, okay, wouldn't they have to be fleshly? They would have to have genitals, right? These sons of God would have to have male genitalia with sperm DNA that could mate with women. Because remember in verse 4 it says right here, the Nephilim were on the earth and began in those days afterwards when the sons of God came to daughters of man, who bore children to them. So if these are talking about angels, then again, this very vague. It's very vague, and again, I don't believe that it's referring to the angelic host. Not in this passage of scripture here. All right, like I say, that I didn't mean to go that far, and we're going to pick it up in the next study. It's kind of interesting study though, but only because Job uses the term the sons of God, okay? Because he used the term sons of God. We'll pick it up in Job in the next study. Don't forget to like and share this video and subscribe to BP, the Bible Perspective. As always, if you have a thought or comment, add it to the comment section below. All comments are welcome. All right, guys. I will see you in the next study.